And that's when everything fell apart. I stopped that video. I went to my living room. That's when the light went off in my head. Like, okay, this stuff that I've been into for the past, 6 months to a year, this stuff is not what I thought it was. I was misled. Like I said, I was purely deceived. While I was going through all that, I thought it aligned with my Christian beliefs. So I knew about demons. I knew about heaven and hell. I knew about all that stuff, right? But my spirit knew when I felt that, okay, this ain't holy. You know what I'm saying? This is something else, and we need to figure out what's going on right now. So I stopped that video. I went and sat up in my living room. As you can imagine, I probably didn't sleep too well that night. I went to work the next day, and there's this lady that I worked with. Her name is Jackie. She might even be watching the video right now. We're Facebook friends. What's up, Jackie? She would talk to me every now and then, and she would invite me to church, right? And I'd be like, like I said, I was a believer, but I wasn't a Christian. If you look at my post yesterday, I wasn't following after Christ, but I believed in him, right? And so she would invite me to church, and it just wasn't very appealing to me. We could talk about God, and I could tell her, yeah, I believe in God, but invite me to church, I'm probably going to be turning up this weekend. But Jackie was the only person locally, right, who I could talk to about what happened to me, about this spiritual experience. So clearly that was a God ordained thing, right? For her to even talk to me before that point, to where when this happened, I would think to go to her. So the next day at work, I walk into her office, I sit down, and I ask her, what do you know about angels? And I basically recount to her everything I just told y'all. And the very first thing she said was, well, my first thought is that sounds demonic. And immediately, I didn't want to hear that, right? Like a lot of y'all don't want to hear the stuff that I say because you think, from your experience and your perception and the way you see the world, you just think you're right and I'm wrong because our viewpoints don't agree with each other. So you just leave it at that and you don't want to hear what I got to say. And so that's how I felt then. So I know how it is. Trust me, I know how it is. And I was a believer then, right? It's funny how we could be so hard-headed and still be believers. So she was like, it sounds demonic to me. I didn't want to hear it because in my mind is like, you haven't been through what I've been through the past 6 months. You haven't, you don't share this experience. You don't know where I'm coming from. So I felt like she was being closed-minded. Isn't it so funny? That's what we hear as Christians a lot. We're closed-minded, but obviously when you become mature, that's not what it is. But I felt like, okay, I don't want to hear this. So I went back to my desk, right? And I started to look at something on YouTube or look for something on YouTube. I don't remember what I was looking for, but what I ended up watching was something completely different. Some way, somehow, I was led to watch a video exposing meditation for what it is. And essentially showing how meditation is the way to open yourself up to demons. When you clear your mind, it gives demons that entry to come through. You're not checking any thoughts. You're not checking anything that's going on like with your body or anything like that. There was a man who was in the Illuminati. I can't think of his name at the moment. He was a whistleblower. He started exposing them once he came to the light. His quote is, meditation is the surefire #1 way to open yourself up to demons. And I fully believe that because I experienced it. It absolutely happened. I thought it was harmless, but like I told y'all, I would bow down, I would come back up, and I would feel something entering my body. So after talking to Jackie, immediately after talking to Jackie, I go to my desk, pull up YouTube, look for something, land on something completely different that exposes meditation for what it is. And my eyes were open. I went home that night, got down on my knees in my living room and repented to God and felt something lift off of my body. Definitely felt something spiritual. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times I would pray to God even after that point, and it'd be this big prayer praying for something to happen and feel nothing. But this was a time where I undoubtedly know God did something right there in that moment. And so that started my path out of New Age spirituality. But there was still a whole lot of residue from the life I had been living that had to be cleaned out over the years. And some of it's still being cleaned out, to keep it real. So shortly after that, I remember I was sleeping one night. I woke up out of my sleep, but I didn't wake up. My spirit woke up. Okay. So I was awake spiritually. My body was still asleep. My eyes were closed, but I was alert. Okay. Now, my vision, all I could see was like a yellow haze. It was like a hazy screen covering my vision. It was yellow though, right? And when I woke up, I immediately knew there was a demonic presence right next to me. Right next to me in the spirit, there was a demonic presence. And in my spirit, I started yelling out the name of Jesus, just instinctively. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. The demonic presence left, but as it left, it was laughing, as if it was literally there just to torment me, just to scare me, right? Just to bring that fear upon me. And that's something that I remember to this day. And something that I think about at times, like, I repented at that time. I rededicated myself to the Lord. But clearly this means demons can still have access to you, right? Not that they can inhabit me, so to speak, if I don't open myself up to them, but that they can still interact with you, still come around, still oppress you. That's the main thing that believers go through, is demonic oppression and demonic influence as well. That started my path out of the New Age. It's interesting because after that, my taste started to change slowly. Shortly after that, I re-enlisted. It's funny also, now that I think about it, at that time is when the idea of going to Bible college first came to mind, and I first started thinking about that. But this was 2014. I didn't end up actually going to Bible college until 4 years later. But that's when that thought first came. That's when my taste started to change a little. I stopped going out as much. I was still going out. I was still dating, but slowly but surely it was starting to change. I re-enlisted, and the monitor is what we call them, the person who basically assigns you to your duty station. She basically read off a list of everywhere that was open and said, have your pick. And when I heard Las Vegas, boy, oh boy, I was already turning up in Jacksonville. When I heard Las Vegas, it's funny how all that spiritual stuff and rededication and stuff, for some reason, it didn't come to mind when I heard Las Vegas. When I heard Las Vegas, I said, okay, let's turn it up a notch. So I chose Las Vegas. As a lot of you know, I was stationed in Las Vegas. Yeah. So I left Jacksonville, moved to Las Vegas later in 2014. And when I tell y'all, as soon as I stepped foot in Las Vegas, God supernaturally removed all desire for dating, all desire for partying, drinking, everything from me supernaturally. As soon as I entered that city, Sin City of all places, where I became a member of a church for the first time in my adult life, where I finally developed a personal relationship with God. Sin City. For the first 4 or 5 months, I didn't talk to any females. Going from someone who talked to multiple females a day, like my life revolved around being in the gym and building my body and females. That was my life, okay? So to go from that to not talking to any females for like 5 months, to not partying, I didn't even step foot on the Strip. Now, the Las Vegas Strip, it's not only partying. You can be on the Las Vegas Strip and be a Christian. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not all partying and debauchery. Debauchery. Yeah. It's not all partying and debauchery. But I didn't even step foot on the Las Vegas Strip until I had been there for 6 months, right? This is how just drastically God changed my taste. So I got attached to a church. I remember that being one of the things on my mind when I got there in October of 2014. It's like, okay, I need to find a church. Finally, in like January, I still hadn't found a church or even looked. And I remember going to work one day and saying, okay, today, it was a Wednesday. Okay, today I'm going to find a church to go to, just to visit at least. I don't care where it is, but today I'm doing it. And I was driving home from work that day, and I heard a radio ad for a church that was near me. Went and visited that church and never left. One thing I loved about that church was they had something going on at that church nearly every day of the week. I literally, no exaggeration, for like my first 6 months at the church, I was at church 5 nights a week. No exaggeration, 5 nights a week at church. Think about how drastically a new believer, although I wasn't a new believer, but I was a baby, you know, think how drastically a baby believer can change in 6 months if they're able to commune with other believers 5 days a week. You know what I'm saying? So it was just an amazing thing. Just to wrap it all up, you know, Las Vegas is where a lot of my spiritual formation to build me up to the man I am today occurred. A lot of it, you know. Obviously, I left Vegas, moved to Dallas, went to Christ for the Nations Institute. A lot happened there too. A lot still happening. God's still working. But yeah, man, that's my quick little testimony. Thank you for listening. God bless you. Goodbye.